It was one of those late summer evenings when the sun lingered in the sky, casting a golden hue over everything, like the world was draped in satin. The backyard was alive with laughter and the intoxicating scent of grilled burgers. Friends had gathered at Mia's house, our unofficial headquarters for late-night hangouts. We had done everything from board games to bonfires, but tonight promised something a little different. "Okay, everyone, gather around." Mia's voice cut through the chatter, her excitement palpable. "We're playing truth or dare. No backing out this time, and no lame dares. Let's make it interesting." I glanced around at my friends, all wearing varying expressions of eagerness and apprehension. I was one of the few who had never participated in a game that spiraled into unexpected territories. Perhaps it was the thrill of the night or the buzz from the couple of beers I had downed, but I felt a flutter of anticipation in my stomach. As the circle formed, I sat next to Jake, the guy I had secretly been crushing on for months. His dark hair framed his sharp jawline, and the mischievous glint in his blue eyes made my heart race every time he smiled. He caught me staring, and I quickly turned my gaze to the grass, a flush creeping into my cheeks. Mia kicked off the game, daring Thomas to do a silly dance in the middle of the yard. He complied, twirling and spinning, much to everyone's amusement. The dares grew bolder, pushing boundaries, until it was my turn. "Sarah," Mia said, her eyes sparkling with mischief, "truth or dare?" "Dare," I replied, surprised by my own boldness. I felt the weight of everyone's gazes on me, and I wanted to prove I could handle whatever challenge came my way. Mia grinned. "I dare you to kiss the person to your left." My heart sank as I turned to see who it was, Jake. I looked at him, and he raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on his lips. The moment felt electric. It was just a game, but it felt charged with something more. I took a deep breath, leaning in, and kissed him, a soft, tentative brush of lips that sent a shockwave through me. "Whoa, nice one," someone shouted, laughter echoing around us. I pulled back, my face aflame, but Jake just looked at me, his smirk replaced by something more intense. The game continued, but I could hardly focus. Every time someone dared someone else, I caught myself sneaking glances at Jake. The atmosphere shifted as the dares grew riskier, and the wine began to flow freely. I felt emboldened, a reckless abandon that was new to me. When it was Jake's turn, Mia asked, "Truth or dare?" "Dare," he replied without hesitation. "I dare you to," she paused for dramatic effect, "kiss Sarah." The entire group erupted in cheers and laughter, while I sat frozen wide-eyed. Jake turned to me, his expression playful but somehow serious. He leaned in closer, and before I could even comprehend what was happening, his lips were on mine again, this time more insistent. There was a moment of shock, then I melted into him, feeling the warmth of his body and the electric pulse of our kiss. It felt like fireworks exploding in the summer sky, vibrant and intoxicating. We broke apart, both breathless, and the cheers around us faded into the background. All I could hear was the thumping of my heart and the rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. "What just happened?" I whispered, my cheeks flushed. "I think we just made it a lot more interesting," he replied, a wicked grin spreading across his face. The game continued, but the dynamic had shifted. The laughter felt more intimate, the dares more daring. As the night wore on, fueled by the alcohol and the thrill of the game, we found ourselves huddled together on the porch, away from the others. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low, a hint of concern lacing his words. "Yeah, just a little overwhelmed," I admitted. The truth was, I had never expected the game to take such a turn, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between us. "I'm glad," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "I've been wanting to do that for a while." My heart skipped a beat. "Really?" "Yeah," he confessed, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't know if you felt the same, but I definitely do." The moment felt charged with unspoken words and hidden feelings. We were both teetering on the edge of something bigger, and I felt exhilarated and terrified all at once. I reached out and placed my hand on his, a gesture that seemed to bridge the gap between us. Before I could think about what I was doing, I leaned in again, and this time he met me halfway. The kiss was deeper, more passionate, and I felt myself getting lost in the moment in him. The world around us faded away as our lips moved in sync, igniting something within me that I never wanted to extinguish. Suddenly, Mia's voice broke through our bubble, calling us back to the game. We pulled apart, panting and wide-eyed. The heat of the moment lingered between us, but the pressure of the group was still there, an invisible force drawing us back into the fray. As the night wore on, the dares grew increasingly risque, the laughter louder, and the energy more palpable. Finally, someone suggested we play a different game, one that involved splitting into pairs for a secrets round. Jake and I were paired together, and the tension between us was undeniable. "Let's find somewhere more private," Jake suggested, and before I could respond, he took my hand and led me away from the group. We slipped into the house, down the hallway, and into a darkened room. Once inside, Jake closed the door behind us, his expression serious now. "What are we doing?" he asked, his voice low and husky. "I don't know," I replied, my heart racing. "But I feel like we need to talk." His gaze softened, and he stepped closer, inching toward me. "Or maybe we don't need to talk." In an instant, his lips were on mine again, igniting a fire that had been simmering all night. I melted against him, my back pressing against the wall as he deepened the kiss, his hands tangling in my hair. The world outside faded completely, leaving just the two of us wrapped in a cocoon of heat and desire. Before I knew it, we were stumbling onto the bed, laughter mixing with gasps as we fell onto the soft sheets. The kisses grew more urgent, fueled by the adrenaline of the night and the electric connection we shared. Clothes were shed, inhibitions forgotten, and what started as a simple game of truth or dare spiraled into a night of unrestrained passion. If you are enjoying this story, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. 4 hours, we explored each other, lost in the rhythm of our bodies, the world outside forgotten. Time slipped away as we discovered every curve, every sigh, every gasp of pleasure, the boundaries of our friendship erased in the heat of the moment. When the dawn began to break, painting the sky with soft hues of pink and orange, we finally collapsed into each other's arms, our bodies entwined. I looked at Jake, his expression a mixture of bliss and disbelief. "Did that really just happen?" I asked, my voice a whisper. "Yeah, it did," he replied, a slow smile spreading across his face. "And I'm really glad it did." As the sun rose outside, casting its light through the window, I knew this was just the beginning of something beautiful. What had started as a simple game had turned into something extraordinary, a connection that went beyond friendship. I smiled back at him, heart swelling with hope and excitement for what was to come. As the first rays of sunlight began to fill the room, reality started to creep back in. The distant sounds of the waking world, a bird chirping, a car engine rumbling, served as a gentle reminder that the night was over. I shifted slightly, my head resting on Jake's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. "Last night feels like a dream," I murmured, more to myself than to him. Jake's arm tightened around me, his voice still rough from sleep. "If it was, I don't ever want to wake up." His words made my heart flutter, but with them came a twinge of nervousness. The night had been magical, but daylight had a way of shining a harsh light on things left unsaid. "What happens now?" I asked, finally voicing the question that had been simmering in the back of my mind. Jake was silent for a moment, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my arm. "That depends," he said, his tone careful. "What do you want to happen?" The vulnerability in his voice caught me off guard. Jake, who was always so confident and carefree, now seemed just as unsure as I was. I sat up slightly, meeting his gaze. "I don't know," I admitted. "I mean, last night was incredible. But what if it changes everything?" He propped himself up on one elbow, his expression soft but serious. "Sarah, everything already has changed. And honestly, I'm okay with that." His honesty was disarming, and I felt a warmth spread through me. "You mean that?" He nodded. "I've been trying to work up the courage to tell you how I feel for months. Last night wasn't just some random moment for me. It was, he hesitated, searching for the right words. It was real. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, and I smiled. It was real for me too. Relief washed over his face, and he pulled me into a kiss, slow and tender, as if sealing the promise between us. The rest of the morning felt like a continuation of the dream, filled with soft laughter and quiet moments of closeness. Eventually, though, the outside world beckoned. We dressed, sharing secret smiles as we tried to piece together the previous night's scattered clothing. When we finally emerged from the room, the house was eerily quiet. The remnants of the party were strewn across the living room: empty cups, crumpled napkins, a forgotten pair of sunglasses. "I think we missed the clean-up party," Jake joked, his hand brushing against mine as we walked toward the kitchen. Mia was there, sipping a cup of coffee and scrolling through her phone. She looked up as we entered, her eyebrows raising slightly at the sight of us together. "Well, well," she said, a knowing smile spreading across her face. "Looks like someone had an eventful night." I felt my cheeks flush, but Jake just grinned. "You could say that," he replied, his hand slipping into mine. Mia's smile softened, and she gave us a little nod. "About time," she said simply, turning back to her phone. As Jake and I stepped out into the fresh morning air, I realized that Mia was right. It was about time to take a chance, time to let go of fear, and time to embrace whatever was waiting for us. And as Jake's fingers intertwined with mine, I knew I was ready. Thanks for joining me on this story. You won't want to miss what happens next. If you loved this story and want to dive into more thrilling tales, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join our growing community where we share stories that ignite the imagination and spark real connections. Let's keep this journey going together. Subscribe now, and I'll see you in the next one.